Ohio State always has good quarterbacks, but in the last few years, we've really seen things ramp up. It started with Dwayne Haskins, then it was Justin Fields, and now, most recently, it has been C.J. Stroud. Ryan Day has struck gold at the quarterback position, and it seems that Columbus, Ohio is becoming a destination for big-time quarterbacks. With C.J. Stroud having another spectacular season, and him likely heading off to the 2023 NFL Draft, this makes me ask the question, who is going to be the next great Ohio State quarterback? In today's video, I'm going to offer you some insight into who is in the quarterback room now, who will be in the quarterback room in the future, and who I think will be the next great Ohio State quarterback. But before we get started, we're so close to 100K, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to support today's video, turn on notifications so you never miss when I upload, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now, let's get started and talk about who the next great Ohio State quarterback will be. Before we can talk about the next great Ohio State quarterback, let's first talk about the quarterbacks who have set the tone for this new era. Guys like Troy Smith, Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor, Cardale Jones, and JT Barrett were great, but things really began to step up in 2018 when Dwayne Haskins took over. Coming out of the DC area, Haskins was a 4-star recruit and originally committed to play for Maryland. Urban Meyer was relentless in getting him to Ohio State though, and he eventually flipped to the Buckeyes. After redshirting and then becoming a backup in 2017, Haskins would take over in 2018 and was absolutely insane. He broke multiple Ohio State records, passing for 4,831 yards with 50 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He became one of the best quarterbacks in the country that year and was so good that he was selected with the 15th overall pick in the first round by the Washington Redskins. He was part of that 2019 quarterback class, and after failing to become that long-term guy in Washington, he went on to the Steelers and then, as we all know, tragically passed away this past spring. After Haskins though, we moved on to Justin Fields. Justin Fields was the 5-star recruit in the class of 2018, and after originally going to Georgia, he figured out that Georgia was not the best place for him to develop his skills, so he transferred to Ohio State and became Ryan Day's first quarterback. In 2019, he would pass for 3,273 yards with 41 touchdowns and 3 interceptions as he would get the Buckeyes to the college football playoff. He once again returned in 2020, and in less games, he was still pretty terrific. He passed for 2,100 yards with 22 touchdowns and 6 picks. Overall, in 2 years, he had over 5,000 yards and 63 touchdowns with less than 10 interceptions. Fields was athletic, and many believed he was going to be a franchise quarterback as well. He was taken with the 11th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft by the Bears, and so far, he has been labeled a bust, but I guess he has been showing more flash recently. Haskins and Fields set the tone, and C.J. Stroud has since taken over. Coming out of the state of California, Stroud was a 3-star recruit for quite some time before he blew up at the Elite 11 and eventually became a 5-star. He decided to commit to Ryan Day at Ohio State, or in his one play in 2021, go for a touchdown against Michigan State. Last year, he beat out Jack Miller for the starting job and threw for 4,435 yards with 44 touchdowns and 6 picks. He became one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and many projected him to win the Heisman in 2022. While he still does have a chance at it this year, Stroud's play has not fallen off at all. He's thrown for 2,750 yards with 34 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Some people have been questioning his grit and how good he really is, but in my eyes, Stroud is still arguably the top quarterback in the country, and I'm not going to argue with that. He's thrown for over 7,000 yards with 78 touchdowns and 10 picks in his career, and he will be headed off to the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. So those 3 guys have really set the tone for the future, but when C.J. Stroud leaves, who is going to take over for Ohio State? Now, let's talk about that, and this is where it gets fun. So the first option we have is that Ohio State brings in some sort of high-profile transfer. Whether that's a player who's put up big numbers somewhere, or maybe it's some sort of former blue-chip 5-star player who hasn't gotten a chance to play yet. Either way, I think that's the least likely of those options, as I think Ryan Day loves what he has in his quarterback room, and they have a guy who will more than likely take over right away, and that's who we're going to talk about first, and that's Kyle McCord. Coming out of St. Joseph's Prep in Philadelphia, McCord blew up as a sophomore. Alongside teammate Marvin Harrison Jr., he set both city and league records for career passing yards. In total, he threw for 6,887 yards with 88 touchdown passes. Add in the fact that he was injured the final 4 games of his season, he could have had even bigger numbers. His father played quarterback at Rutgers in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and it looked like McCord was also going to be starting at a Big Ten school as he decided to commit to Ohio State. McCord was the number 6 quarterback, a 5-star recruit, and the 28th best player in the class of 2021. At 6'3" and over 200 pounds, McCord had a strong arm, great vision, the intangibles, and kind of checked every box for what you're looking for in a quarterback. So far in 2 years for Ohio State, McCord has thrown for 600 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's completed 71% of his passes, and he always comes in during garbage time. This has been somewhat controversial for Ohio State fans because if McCord is the next guy, many people believe he should be getting more reps and more snaps towards the end of games, as Ohio State's not always in these close games. Ryan Day hasn't been super clear about it. He said, quote, "It's obviously a good problem to have, don't get me wrong, but it is something that you just want to make sure you respect the game. At the same time, you do want to get him going a little bit." I'm not quite sure what's going through Ryan Day's mind, but in my eyes, I think McCord should be playing a little bit more. Overall, though, he is definitely probably going to be the number 1 guy for next year, as he has that connection with Marvin Harrison Jr., who will be back for his 3rd season, and checks all the boxes you want in a quarterback. But you just never know how a player is going to do until he gets in the game. So what if it's not a transfer or McCord? The next guy we need to talk about is someone who is a freshman on the roster. His name is Devin Brown. If you follow college football recruiting, then you guys probably know how crazy the Devin Brown story was. Eventually he got to high school in the state of Arizona, but after a couple of years there, he decided to transfer to Corner Canyon High School, which is located in Draper, Utah. As a senior there, he completed 70% of his passes for 4,881 yards and 57 touchdowns. He led his team to a 12-2 record and was a 6A state runner-up finish. Right before his senior year of high school, though, Brown was once committed to a different school. He chose USC over the likes of Michigan State, NC State, and Wisconsin. But after everything that went on with USC and Brown's recruitment going up, he got an offer from Ohio State and eventually flipped to the Buckeyes. With his stock soaring, Brown became one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I believe one scout from On3 labeled Devin Brown as the best quarterback in the class of 2022, which was insane. But according to the 24/7 Sports composite, he was the number 6 quarterback, the 43rd best player, and a high 4-star recruit from the class of 2022. So far this year, Brown has become the 3rd string quarterback and is more than likely taking time to learn the system, as he is not yet registered a stat. But at 6'3", he's a very similar quarterback in my eyes to McCord, and I actually think there will be somewhat of a quarterback battle between these two. I'm ultimately going to pick McCord over Brown, but Ohio State brought this guy in for a reason, and he has a pretty similar story to Stroud, where he blew up at the end. But there is one more guy we have to talk about, and that is their current 2023 high school commit, Brock Glenn. For a while, it looked like Austin Novosad was going to become Ohio State's 2023 quarterback, but he decided to stick with his commitment to Baylor, so they went all out to get Brock Glenn. It looked like he was going to go to Florida State after Chris Parson decommitted, but ultimately, Glenn decided to commit to Ohio State, noting Ryan Day's quarterback development and them always being ranked in the top 5. As a junior last year, Glenn threw for 1,576 yards with 23 touchdowns. He also had 9 interceptions and 3 scores on the ground. He committed to Ohio State over the likes of Florida State, Auburn, TCU, LSU, and Illinois. And on paper, some are concerned that Glenn isn't really at that elite level for Ohio State. I've seen a lot of people saying he's overrated and that this is a reach and that he would just be at Ohio State to be a backup or to develop and transfer somewhere else. I can't really answer that question because the kid's only a senior in high school right now, but I will say he's not the typical quarterback recruit that Ohio State gets, and he reminds me a lot of someone like Jack Miller, as we just don't know what will happen. But ultimately, I think McCord will be the guy for a year or two, and then we'll see a battle between Devin Brown and 2024 5-star Dylan Raiola. But what do you guys think? If you're an Ohio State fan, what do you think of the current quarterback situation? Who will be the next guy for Ohio State? And what are your thoughts on all 3 of these players? Be sure to let me know down below. Let me know what topic, team, player, or situation I can cover next. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.